The official CCNA Cert Guides, and as a result, this CCNA course, breaks all content down into 13 separate parts. This video is an introduction to Part 4 that's all about IP addressing and subnetting. By watching this video, you can help find your way through what's going to end up being over 400 different videos in this CCNA course. Let me show you where you're headed for this next part. Briefly, what's in this video? Well, I'll tell you a bit about the content that's here in this part, in the part overview, and then I'll tell you about each specific video, just a few words to set the context in case you want to go get one particular video. Then I'll talk to you about the idea of review and retrieval practice videos and show you what those are for this same part. Then I'll close with some advice about how to find this CCNA course content in the context of this CCNA course playlist. All right, let's go do it. I organize my videos to match the outline of my books. In my books, I organize chapters into multi-chapter parts. And in this case, we're talking about content that in the books you would find in Volume 1, Part 4 on IP addressing. And here in my video course, you'll find it in Part 4 as well. So that's what we're talking about here in terms of the big picture. And if you drill down in the books, and then as I organize things here in the course, that content is in 5 different chapters. The first of those I call Perspectives on IP Subnetting, and that's supposed to be one chapter, and in the case of the video course, one set of videos that tries to give you the most important topics on IP subnetting all at once, but just the big picture ideas in there to give you some perspective before you get into the details. And the other 4 chapters then get into the details. All right, so that's the idea about organizing things this way. Now let me get into the detail and show you the individual instructional videos that match up to those chapters. First, a little perspective on my thinking about things. When I go to create a video for this course, I always try to take a different approach than how the book handles the topic. So at least different examples, but I use different analogies. I even approach it from a completely different angle if possible. Maybe just reorder the topics, anything to give you a different look at the material. So it's different than the book, so if you're using both, maybe one way will make sense if the other didn't. All right, but I keep the scope the same as the book. Now I want to do that because that way if you see the video and you think, wow, I got it from the video, maybe you don't have to read the book as much. Or if you got it from the book, it's like, yeah, I'll skip that video and move on, right? I want you to be able to easily move between the book and the video, all right? So that's the idea. Now, just drilling down a bit, the videos related to the books, Volume 1, Chapter 11, I made 5 videos. That's where you see these 5 thumbnail images from YouTube. 2 of them relate to the first 2 sections, 2 relate to Section 3, and 1 relates to Section 4. What are these sections? Well, if you looked in the table of contents of the books and you found the major sections 1 and 2, 3, and 4, if you will. So what are these videos? We've got a video on, could you look at a topology and figure out where subnets are needed? Well, this explains the logic you would use. Can you look at one place in that topology where addresses are needed and tell me about what those addresses look like, which addresses would be legal and which ones would not? Then in the design section, we've got a video about how does a company go about choosing what IP version 4 address block to use? How have they done that historically over the 50 plus years of IP version 4? The rules have changed over time, so an understanding of that. And then we talk about, hey, at some point your company then chose subnet mask to use, subnet mask, go about the process of subnetting a network, subdividing it. So what's the result of that? Well, it creates a number of subnets and number of hosts. We talk about that logic as well. And then we close out by talking about, hey, what specific addresses should you implement and what specific subnets should you deploy? So we talk about creating an implementation plan. Then we get into the 4 chapters that drill down. So there's a section on class A, B, and C networks, classful networks. So we have a video about public class A, B, and C networks to just get through those details. It's very straightforward, but everybody has to learn it sometime. Then related to Volume 1, Chapter 13 in the book, associated videos here, just 2 of them. two major sections in the chapter, one video each. One is about converting between the three different mask formats. And then the second section is, again, a revisit and more depth on how the choice of subnet mask defines the number of subnets and number of hosts in a subnetting plan. Then into chapter 14, this is big. So it explains CCNA subnetting, CCNA level subnetting, defines what a subnet is, the 4 key numbers you can learn and calculate about any subnet. Then it shows you how to do that with binary math. Then it shows you how to do that with decimal math. I think for the exam, since you don't get a calculator, learning how to do it with this decimal math is much better for exam prep. And then finally, chapter 15, we've got a section that talks about picking the mask. So if you've got requirements, how do you pick the right mask? And then there's a section about finding all subnet IDs, and the process is a little tricky. So I broke it down into 4 videos, the 2 easy cases at the top, the trickier case next, and the trickiest case there at the bottom. So what do we have for this part? Well, we have lots and lots and lots of subnetting practice. So most of the thumbnails are going to have this little subnet with the submarine for subnet in the logo here. So chapter 11, it was perspectives, but we've got 4 review videos in that related to that one chapter. One about, hey, just IP address rule breakers would be a review to say, hey, which of these numbers is an illegal number versus a legal number for IP version 4? This next one, how many subnets are needed? Look at a topology diagram and figure out how many subnets do you need to meet the requirements of that design. Then the third section, if you've got a network and one chosen mask, how many subnets are created and how many hosts per subnet? It's a straightforward math problem once you've learned the details. And then thinking about implementation, we talk about how to build an implementation plan, and specifically picking the range of addresses to use for dynamic or DHCP versus static addresses. Then we move on to 12, which drills down on classful networks, and we've got 2 videos that are basically the same style, just more extra questions on, hey, here's an IP address, tell us about the class A, B, or C network it would have been a part of. Then into chapter 13 about subnet masks. The first section is about converting between the different styles of masks. So we've got one video that takes us from dotted decimal notation to prefix style, and one that goes the opposite direction, prefix to dotted decimal. All right. Then at the end, we revisit this idea of how many subnets and how many hosts per subnet are created by a given mask. That topic we go into more depth in the chapter 13 material, so we've just got more repetitions for practicing that math here. Then we get to chapter 14, which may well be the most important of everything here in this part. So we've got an exercise that starts with the term subnet ID. Here's the one that's not subnetting math. It's a mind map exercise. You'd write subnet ID in the middle of your page and try to remember every other subnetting term you've learned in this part right there. All right, so it's a great exercise to stretch yourself and review terminology. And then here at the bottom, you start with an IP address and say, what are the 4 facts about the subnet that address is a part of? That's a very important skill for real life and for the exam. Then finally, chapter 15, 2 sections there, 2 exercises. We go through the design-oriented thinking way to think about picking a subnet mask. Hey, we need this many subnets, this many hosts per subnet. What masks work to meet those requirements? And then the exercise of starting with a class A, B, or C network and one mask. How do we find all the subnet IDs of that network? So that gets us through the review and retrieval practice specifically built for the chapters. And then, because I created a big lab at the end of part 3, I thought, is there a way I could make a big lab for subnetting? So I made a big subnetting exercise. Part 4 does not have any iOS commands, so it's not really oriented toward a lab, but here's the big exercise. We've got this network topology. So you'll need to go through these processes, finding the lowest and highest subnet IDs of 3 different networks, plan which subnets to use in this topology, I've got some requirements and specifics in the lab exercise. Plan which IP addresses to use on both the LAN and the WAN links. Use a text editor and plan your device configs. And then if you've got the right skill set already, you can go ahead and get into Cisco Packet Tracer and configure the IP addresses that you planned. So here are a few quick tips. You can use this link at the bottom if you want to type it. You can scan this QR code. You can search around my YouTube channel and just look for the free CCNA course playlist to find the free CCNA course playlist. Now, the video order matches the book outline, so you can scroll through and find videos. It interleaves instruction and review videos, so the topic order is in sync with the book, so it'd be like an instructional video on a topic, then the review video for the same topic in that order. All right, so matches the book outline. So you'll see a teaching video. Note the dark blue background. So the instructional videos are these dark blue backgrounds at the top of the thumbnail, and the review and retrieval practice videos have this white background at the top of the thumbnail. So blue for the instruction. Notice all of these in the graphic right now say Volume 1, Chapter 11. And then as you scroll down through the list, maybe the next one would be Volume 1, Chapter 12, and so on. So it's going to go all the way through the chapters in sequence as you move through the playlist. Now, if you want more information about the CCNA course playlist, you can click on the left and find a video just about that. But if you're ready to get into the part and start learning about IP subnetting, click on the right and you'll get to the very first video talking about things about IP subnetting. Hope you enjoyed this intro, and I'll see you in the next video.